You're coughing too, man. I'm coughing up a storm. Okay. Here we go. World of Capes and Lunatics, Gods and Monsters. There are those who need a good lawyer. Those people turn to the only lawyer in the Marvel Universe, ready to defend you. She-Hulk, attorney for hire? Avast me hearties and welcome once again to Full Stream Ahead. I be your captain, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me, as always, is me, first mate, and skinny rich friend.
It's Mozz.
Hey, Mozzie. I love the beard, by the way. I don't know if I ever compliment you enough on the beard.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate it.
You really wear it so well. It's so perfect. You know, this
That's awful kind of you.
Ladies, if you're watching the show, just know he's single, okay? Superhuman Law. Jen is hired at a prestigious law firm, but must practice as She-Hulk and rep a complicated client. Writers this week include Created for Television by Jessica Gao, John Buscema, and Stan Lee. Of course, they created the original She-Hulk many years ago to ensure that precious trademark. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, of course, created the original Hulk. And staff writers, hardest working people in show business this week would be Dana Schwartz and Cody Ziegler, our staff writers. Kat Corio was our director this week. Oh man, someone's gonna get some notes in the comment. They have Stan Lee as the She-Hulk creator, but they just list Jack Kirby as the Hulk creator. Oh, the internet will be flaming tonight, Mozzie, let me tell you.
But that's on IMDb, right? So they could have got it wrong.
They often do. But let's talk about tonight's episode.
It felt so short, didn't it? I feel like, I mean, they're a half hour, but I felt like by the time the end credits were rolling, I thought it was like, you know, one of those cold opens that leads to the actual title sequence. Is like, oh, the episode's about to start. This is gonna be a good one. And I was like, wait a second, the episode's over. We just got like an intro to an episode. That's what it felt like.
Well, you know, and I think this is a criticism, and I share it, that they are doing these. You know, we're getting these 9 episodes, but if they're all like these short 30-minute episodes, you almost feel a little cheated. You know, not that like every other, because I think Ms. Marvel was keeping to about 30 to 40-minute premise too. You know, I think there were a few 27-minute episodes in there as well. So I don't think it is unreasonable, but you know what I think what a lot of it is I think that this show moves so quickly, you realize how short 30 minutes is.
And I think, you know, what I just realized what it is for me, why I gravitate to this show so much. There is a lightness to this that is still subtle and interesting. Like they took it too far, I thought, with Thor. That wasn't lightness, that was just, you know, silliness. But everything's been so dark and so serious. And now this is just like, hey, we're just having fun. And you're like, it feels good. Like you could see like that scene where they're on the beach doing yoga. Like that's what it feels like. It's like a welcome change from all the heaviness to just have some fun.
Yeah, and honestly, I kind of want to see that scene of Jen at Venice Beach. That's actually a very famous poster of Jen. It's like the Jen pinup poster of her at Muscle Beach, and you know, her just casually lifting several, you know, tons in front of all these big bodybuilders who are just, you know, totally there for it. Let's be honest. So I'm trying to step back to where this episode opens. She got fired at the end of last episode, correct?
Right. I think she's still looking for work.
Yeah, so this is her looking for the job. She's got her best buddy in paralegal right by her side. Oh
yeah, this is where she goes into the bar and gets talked into coming in as She-Hulk.
Yeah. Well, first we get her being rejected by a bunch of law firms who Don't need the spectacle. Which, I'm sorry, you're gonna tell me you're gonna tell me Saul Goodman isn't gonna say, yes, welcome to Goodman and Walters, you know. Let's be honest
but
here.
She's still trying to get jobs in the upper echelon, not the Saul Goodmans of the world, you know.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see there being an argument that, you know, she's not quite ready to chase ambulances yet, but you know.
Right.
Yeah, but we did see that they were clearly moving further and further down the scale as you go, because you see, like, first it's the nice big office with the law library, like where I live. Then it's like, okay, it's a slightly smaller office, and it's an office, but they actually have like the banker boxes there. Like the last office, it's a bunch of filing cabinets, like some are open, and it's just, you know, you can see that they've definitely had better days. But yeah, it's a rough go for her. She's even looking at the possibility of becoming a Swiss Village mascot. I think this is also where we see the line about a Canadian arrested in bar fight with metal claws. Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, we'd like to assume it's Wolverine, but you know, it could be any.
Yeah,
it could be anybody at this point.
Could be anybody.
Lots of Canadians have metal claws. That's all I'm saying.
Fair enough. Know. Also, right underneath that, by the way, there's like, hey, there's a giant statue sticking out of the ocean. Anybody's noticed that?
Yeah, it's
what is up with that?
I think it's an art installation. You know,
yeah.
It's probably Banksy. It's just a Banksy. It's a really ornate Banksy. That's just what I assume.
Man,
Banksy goes out of his way, man. There's no denying it. I guarantee you, it's a Banksy.
That's the size of maybe like 5 cruise ships. That's how big that thing is. It's like it could have several cities inside of it.
Oh yeah. But you know, is that the weirdest thing that's happened in the Marvel universe recently? You know,
I mean, it's in the top 3, I would say, right?
Except that it's not like something happened because of it. Like I said,
fair enough.
From the Marvel universe's perspective, it's sort of like, oh, that's interesting. You know, like, you know, is this, you know, some kind of a sign, or is this just a Banksy? You know, I mean, we don't know. And it's probably an assumption on our part to assume it's not a Banksy. Arguably, in its own way, this was actually just Cersei's Banksy. So it's just a big sculpture of beautiful marble in the shape of some dude rising out of the ocean, like so much Cthulhu, and you know, but better dressed. And you know, yeah, people are like, what's going on with that?
Yeah.
And of course, it's interesting. This is an interesting thing people pointed out. So after he goes in, and so there's apparently a very subtle thing when, you know, the guy comes in to buy Jen a drink, and the bartender's like, "You want to do the Pappy Van Winkle?" Which is apparently like the most exclusive $1,000 a shot bottle of whiskey you can buy.
You know, when I saw that scene, I thought to myself, man, that is a good actor thinking on his feet. He's like being in the role. He gave the guy a little nod, like, and he took a little nod. I was like, man, what a really good actor. And then when I saw people talking about that, it was purposely like a really expensive bottle of whiskey, I was like, oh, okay, so it was intentional. It was more, you know, good acting on his part too, but it wasn't like
I'm not going to undercut his acting because he sold it.
Right. But it wasn't the improv that I thought it was. It was very much intentional. But on the other hand, he's already sort of reaching for that bottle, almost making it sound like that's what she was already drinking, which is why she says like, oh no, one drink, no, not one more of those. I just lost my job. You know, just one drink was a matter of that to her. So maybe she was already drinking that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, maybe Peppy Van Winkle's a little more popular in this. You know, maybe they're still producing in this universe. You never know. You never know.
You're trying to remind yourself that she's in that echelon of the world, right? I lost my job. this is where I am. I'm gonna get another job that allows me to come and have $1,000 shots whenever I want.
Yeah, well, she was a DA. I don't think she was doing $1,000 shots as a DA. And truth
Also
be told,
fair.
she could have been doing top shelf bourbon, but not,
Yeah,
secret
yeah, yeah,
under the
yeah.
bar safe bourbon, And like that's the idea is that,
So which means is that he knew to reach for that.
yeah, he knew because he knew who, and it's a lawyer bar, which means it's probably frequented by these guys too. So the Goodman, Lieber, and Kurtzberg folks, they probably come in too after a hard day at law. And there they have to show who they are. So they order the Pappy Van Winkles. They order the, Dom Perignon 42s, right in the middle of the war where, that was real good Nazi champagne that you can't get anymore. And you have to know someone in Hydra to have it,
That's funny.
Hey, I'm just being honest, man. Well, good. Tristan has 5 friends who are secretly in Hydra. Not much of a secret if you know it, though, is it, Tristan?
And if you tell it.
Oh, okay. He's not saying which of his 5 friends are secretly in Hydra. But he does. They get around.
That's how people get in trouble, Tristan.
Yeah. Well, but that's also how you make your connections, for what it's worth.
They'll never guess that.
Sorry. So yeah, he goes for that, and she agrees and it's interesting because it's one of these weird things about the whole story where this person is making this executive decision. Now, granted, based on how talented of a lawyer she is, but also because he realizes this is the gimmick. This is where even Goodman, Lieber, and Kurtzberg can still be Saul Goodman when they need to be. They can say, we understand, this is a business, and if we're going to do this, we need a face. And whatever face you put out there, it's not going to be an interesting face when this lawyer exists. When we know that there is this lawyer. And I am very excited to see how that goes. It's interesting in this because, of course, when she comes in, she's told, we're paying you to be She-Hulk, which is interesting because it's actually a reversal of what it originally was. Because originally they just are hiring her because she is the best lawyer in the Marvel Universe.
Right, because you had such a good case against us.
Mm-hmm. This is good, but it's very much because she is a superhero that she is getting hired. Whereas that is actually, in its own way, almost antithetical to hiring her as a lawyer in the field because it is specifically superhuman law, they figure that this is going to be okay. We'll actually have a lawyer who can handle her clients because that's always a problem when you have superhuman clients. It's hard to step up to an abomination. If you can't step back to an abomination. But there's an interesting thing here where she breaks the fourth wall. And also, I find it interesting, she must have had an outfit ready to go because she changes clothes before she hulks out. But she had, obviously, clothes ready. She had, and still a nice lawyerly outfit. Lawyerly enough with a little bit of stretchy velvet and all that kind of stuff to pull off a lawyerly look after she transforms. So clearly she knew this was a possibility. Deep in the back of her mind, it might not have been what she wanted. She was maybe thinking, okay, maybe I have to be She-Hulk in court. Maybe I just have to be She-Hulk when the need arises. But the fact of the matter is they're coming to me because I'm a lawyer. And they are coming to her because she's a good lawyer. If she was just a superhero lawyer, they'd go get Matt Murdock.
Exactly. And they don't want that.
Exactly. The man's bad at his job, even if he wears pajamas when he runs around and punches people.
Right.
Exactly, Tristan. He is not a good lawyer. Good superhero, bad lawyer.
It's like that, that bodega on the corner that only ever has like 3 bananas and a pear. They don't really need to turn a profit as long as the product in the back is moving.
Exactly. Oh, but anyway, so she does this, but this is one of these points that has been made about when she breaks the fourth wall, which is that when she breaks the fourth wall, it is not outside of time. The way a lot of characters, when Ferris Bueller breaks the fourth wall, when Zach Morris does, or when Ultimate Spider-Man would do it, or when even Deadpool does it, there is a separate time and space when he does these things. When Jen does it, she's just talking to the audience, but everything else is moving along. And so she doesn't hear what Holloway is talking about, so that when he comes back at the end and says, "Oh, how do you feel about that?" And she says, "Well, I'm basically agnostic." And he's like, "That is interesting, it's
I
unprecedented."
love that reaction by him. It's such like one of like a movers and shakers kind of reaction. Like he sees the pieces on his chess set and he expects them to move a certain way. And he's planned his day out. He's planned his next 50 years out based on where these pieces are going to move. And all of a sudden one is, wait, what? I mean, it's still manageable, but that's interesting. And he had that sort of like a detached view of it, just amused by what it meant for the game, that I found that really fascinating.
And likely what he's talking about there is the fact that, the people that they're going to be defending are going to be supervillains. These are beings of unquestionable power that are seeking to rule the universe and cause mayhem, and it's all on video cassettes.
And we need them released.
And we're being paid a lot of money by people who want them released. And they say that Emil Blonsky's pro bono, but the fact of the matter is, it's like pro bono means basically for free. It means for the good. It's a lawyerly term. And when you do work pro bono, it means for the good, for the general good of society. As a lawyer, you will go and you will perform so many hours of pro bono work, meaning you will do the good work for the good of the community, not just for your own pocketbook.
But here
it's a little from column A, a little from column B.
Here it's more like pro bribery.
Yes.
Pro favor.
It too. Now, this of course gets her to meet with Abomination, and of course she makes her whole statement of like, the man tried to kill my cousin. It's like, yes, we're aware. It's like, we do our homework. We do know that, and he knows it too. He specifically requested you, and he signed the conflict of interest waiver. And because he knows that this is a person who could get him off. He knows, and not in a bad way. He knows that this is a person. Yeah, he knows this is a person who could make the argument. In fact, probably can make the best argument that if she believes he is reformed, she can make the argument he is reformed. And
people already love her, and he sees that she has the ability to move people, to move the jury, to make them like her. So they can do that for him.
Yes. And I like Blonsky in this, I love his haikus. They've released some of his haikus. They're quite beautiful.
Right. What I love about it, that he's the kind of character that's so ambitious that he could have an unlimited mountain of patience and the willpower to do treachery in that sort of long-fingered way.
Yeah. Well,
and that's what I'm really enjoying, because underneath it all, you see him playing the game and you're like, okay, but I'm going to play it so well, you're not going to know.
Well, that's but really and to be fair, he makes the point about the super soldier serum. And the fact that he wasn't a very nice person beforehand is actually irrelevant to the fact that he got pumped up with super soldier serum. He then got pumped up with Hulk blood, And as much as the leader wants to say he had informed consent, you can't give informed consent if you're already hopped up on something. And that's the real thing, because that was clearly
and a certain narrative was fed to him. I mean, I do believe in that moment that he did feel like he was on the right side.
Yeah. Well, he, like John Walker, he believes that it doesn't matter how much force you use if you are defending democracy and the system, and you are ensuring that these random chaotic elements are controlled. Because again, let's face it, the Hulk smashed a lot of things. Now, granted, you can say, well, he only smashed a lot of things because people made him angry. But people made him angry even before the army showed up. People are gonna make Bruce Banner angry. Because, he's got, Edward Norton had one of those faces. You just wanted to punch him. And so that's why he changed his face to Mark Ruffalo. Which is, I think, now, okay, there's an interesting point in here about the 7 soulmates. And apparently there's a scene you can see in one thing where you can see these women with these floral crowns.
In the window to the surgical theater?
Yeah. And so I didn't say it was cellmates. No, Screen Crush said it was cellmates. He was wrong. He didn't hear.
He said my benefactors, my lovers, or something like that.
Yeah. Well, no. Yeah, but when we were watching videos on this, someone said it was cellmates, but actually it was soulmates.
Okay.
But his soulmates have purchased land for them where they will all, and honestly, to be fair, the idea of prison hanger-ons, that is not a new thing. And he's a very big celebrity, and he also is one of those celebrities that presents as dangerous, but that could be handled in a certain way, you know what I mean? That
dangerous monster.
Yeah, exactly. So I could definitely see him having, 7 soulmates who are committed to the idea of, being the brides of abomination. And that's fun. That's delightful. I can't wait to see how they play into it. I am very fascinated by all of that. But what fascinates me the most in all of this is Bruce Banner. I do want to get to the family dinner in a minute, but I do want to talk about Bruce Banner because, okay, this is my big fan theory. I've mentioned this before, but this has actually specifically in it a scene that actually mirrors the Professor Hulk run, where first off, we have this idea that Smart Hulk is detached from his past, a different person, literally. And the thing is, when you say he's a different person, literally, that is actually true because this is a different Hulk personality.
So it's kind of like what we saw in Moon Knight.
Yeah, it is a dissociative identity disorder, and this is a third person. So there is a Hulk, and there is a Banner, and then there is a Professor Hulk.
That's interesting. So in the meantime, do you think Hulk and Banner are like taking naps, or do you think they're waging war?
I think they're both locked away in the trunk.
Oh, so they don't have contact with each other while they're repressed? Or are they occupied, and that's why Smart Hulk is here, or was born so that they could occupy themselves with their own fighting,
so that they could believe maybe maybe they believe they're in charge as much as anyone, but they feel that they're working together. But really, it's this third guy who just sort of navigates between them and makes them feel like they're both in charge, even though neither truly is.
Like a Dick Cheney vice president.
Yeah, something like that, and that's the thing. So, but that's
horrifying. That's a scary thought, man.
Yeah, but this is actually an important point that occurs in Hulk's evolution, and specifically in related to the Maestro, because there is a scene when Professor Hulk forgives Abomination for killing Betty Banner. And he says, "I forgive you. We've both been through a lot. It's a lot to deal with. You tried to kill my wife, because I don't know if she was still dead or if she came back to life or whatever. But at a certain point, like, he's trying to fight with him, and Banner's just like, I forgive you. I'm not going to give you the fight you want because I don't really care. I don't really have an attachment to you on that level. You may think you're my arch nemesis. I mean, really, I think it's like the leader, the Rhino, than you. really he is not invested in this, and he is happy to just forgive him. Now that comes back later after Planet Hulk, when the Hulk again faces Blonsky, and that time, Blonsky thinks, you thought we were forgiven. Is like, he thinks we're forgiven. It's like, no, I didn't forgive you. That was the other guy. That was this other person. That person was separated from my emotions. And again, this is the thing I come back to in this is like, this smart Hulk is very separated from his emotions in an unhealthy way. In a way
That's
that
just what I was
is,
saying. That's a scary thought of like a Hulk in that sort of a space. That's really
yeah.
unpredictable.
Well, what he is effectively a sociopathic Hulk who just knows how good people behave, who knows what a superhero does. But at the same time, that doesn't, that works both ways. Because if you're a sociopath, you can. This is my own psychological fan theory on sociopathology, which is that some people can develop an intellect, enough of an intellect to know proper behavior, without ever internalizing why you have to behave. So that person with that intellect just behaves the way they're supposed to, but without understanding that the reason we do nice things for other people, the reason why we are
they adhere to the
positive,
rules without developing the internal impulse of the why they should follow those
exactly.
rules.
And that's the crux of the biscuit. So within that entire concept, within the entire story, I do find it interesting that this is where that Hulk is. That they are kind of in the spot where they're not having these attachments, and they're forgiving Blonsky, and they're forgiving everyone. I was a whole different person, and that's in my past. I don't associate with that. Which again,
Ryan 2.0 now.
yeah. But
He's
the
watching
thing
the
is, yeah, that whole attitude, that is a very destructive mental attitude to have. And very few people are talking about it, but if you're really deep into the books, you know that that's what happened with Professor Hulk and how Professor Hulk became the Maestro. Yeah. And this is why I think everyone's saying, oh, they're setting up Planet Hulk. I don't think they're setting up Planet Hulk. They're setting up Future Imperfect. And they're going to have that older, more sociopathic Hulk who's, still the Professor Hulk, but now he doesn't see that it's that important for him to be the hero anymore, or feels he can be a better hero controlling everything because who else but him should be in charge. Just
I
like
love
Doctor
it.
Doom. Yeah. I mean,
Because I'll be honest with you, I've had about enough of Yoga Hulk. Like, I need my Hulk to Hulk out. We've been waiting for Hulk to Hulk out ever since Thanos beat him up.
Yeah.
And we haven't really, he's like a fuzzy hippie now. You're not afraid of a Hulk. A Hulk shows up, like families go to take pictures. That's not what you should do with a Hulk. That's not what a Hulk does.
Well, but I from his perspective, what's the sense of fighting if I'm the strongest one there is?
No. I'm just not
Yeah.
in their world. Obviously, it makes sense for him to think, but for me as a selfish fan, I've had about enough of Yoga Hulk.
Yeah.
Can we have some, like Hulk smash back, please?
Well, we might get some before the end of the show.
Be nice. It'd be really nice.
We'll have to see what they do, or they're going to spin it off into another movie, like I said. And you could also you could actually do a Future Imperfect storyline with Hulk on Sakaar, if you have this idea that time passes faster or slower or differently there, and so 100 years could pass for the Hulk, and then you get Banner back, and he's smart Hulk, but he's got the gray beard, and he's like, yeah, oh, I've decided I'm going to take over because you know what? I realize I've built my Sakaarian Empire, and now the Sakaarian Empire needs to take over the world, take over the galaxy, that kind of thing. So there's ways you can do the story. It could be cool. I'd like to see where they take it. And within the structure, it's very interesting. But of course, before this, we do get the family scene with Jennifer and her family at the dinner, and we get to meet Chet, the other genius in the family. You watch, man, because that's when they were driving. He says, "You're not the only genius in their family." And Betty goes, "That's right. cousin Chet.
Oh, I thought he was talking about Bruce because they're family, right?
Yeah, no. But when they were in the car last episode, um, Jen says to Bruce, "You're not the only genius in the family,"
Oh,
and Bruce
interesting.
says, "Yeah, you're right, cousin Chet." Um,
Oh, but that was sarcasm, right? Or
I
maybe not?
mean, maybe it's sarcasm, but maybe he is a genius too. Just because he's lazy doesn't mean he's not a genius, man.
Fair
You
enough.
know, and hey,
Yeah.
he's a manager at Best Buy. He still has his job. So, as Billy Carter once said, I'm the only one in my family who's got a regular job, and they call me crazy. You know, uh,
And that her dad was Larry Appleton, right?
yeah, his dad was Mark Lynn Baker. It's so great to see him. He has been working a lot lately. He is on Ghosts.
Oh, that's
He,
great.
yeah, I believe he is not only the evil uh mansion owner next door, who opened a rival inn just to put our heroes out of business, but I also think he might have played uh the one woman's husband who got sucked down to hell in one of the episodes. So it's an
Hmm.
interesting thing. But yeah, Mark Lynn Baker, he's great in it. Um, it's funny because in the context of the series, he's supposed to be a cop. He's a sheriff, but he could still be an ex-cop, and he's just retired now. That's a
Right.
definite possibility. And he's just like, yeah, and he's chill. He's chill. But maybe one day we're gonna
He's,
see him
he's chill,
bust
but
out the
like
guns.
he's got like that keep it calm, keep it cool, dad energy, but underneath he is ready to burst. He is so excited. He
Yeah.
like his daughter is a superhero. Like
Oh yeah.
he's so excited for it. He's so here for it. But like the way he keeps it covered, really, really fun to watch.
Yeah, and like he says, look, you're not even the first Hulk we've had in the family, and it's not like you broke a city. And that's the thing. I will bet you they never let Bruce forget about that. So
Yeah.
you smashed a whole freaking city, Hulk. Like what? Like do you ever come to a place that doesn't get destroyed? Which
I
I'm sure weighs on him as well.
Yeah. I love that moment because it's like she's feeling so terrible. And it's such a cool dad move because, like, in just like 5 words, he shifted her entire perspective. And it's like, oh, I'm all right. It's like
Yeah,
such a beautiful moment. Like such great writing for him.
yeah.
Such a cool moment. Just in like one sentence, she's like, oh, it's not that bad.
We're actually
Like,
finally getting some good dads in the MCU, and that's
yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
Between Kamala's dad and Jen's dad, it's like, okay, we're moving away from the really awful dads that maybe had one redeeming moment.
Yeah.
Now we're like, no, they're actually guys who are just really decent dads. And when their kids become superheroes, they actually do okay because they're like adjusted because they had a good relationship with their family. You know, go figure. Um, and then of course we get the big reveal at the end, which is as after Jen says, "I'll take the case," after she talks to Bruce, who says, "Yeah, it's fine. I'm a whole different person now," and then phone cuts off because we see he's going into hyperspace. Um, he says, "Well, that's great. I think you need to check the news, though," and then we see that basically the footage of him at the Fight Club has been released. And here's the thing, because people were thinking, "Oh, does I thought this takes place after Shang-Chi?" It does. It does. That this scene isn't something that's happening now. That I'm sure when she goes back there, the Abomination is still in his cage. He's still like, "No, I'm still here. Nothing happened." And it is literally just that Wong has been sneaking him out for whatever reason. Like maybe part of the prison pen pal program is he got Wong, and he convinced
Yeah.
Wong with his haikus to come and visit him. And this is sometimes just was a way I could
Zap him out
deal with,
and zap him back.
yeah, deal with my rage. And he says, "Well, okay. I mean, it's not like getting you out of this technological based prison is going to be that hard for me because I'm magic." And that's the
Right.
thing. And of course, that is one of the most interesting things about the MCU is as it progresses, as they have to deal with all these problems, suddenly they start realizing, oh, I guess now we need to hire magic users to make sure that we have magical sensors and magical things, and mutant sensors and all that kind of stuff. It's
It's just the
interesting
beginning
when,
until that too becomes a part of science.
yeah, well, exactly. Well, it does, and that's of course what it happens. And you will have entire branches of. I mean, that's the thing. Like in the actual MCU right now, when you go to college, you can study magic. So you don't need to go to Hogwarts anymore. You just go there and say, yeah, okay, so this is the this is the Book of Ashanti. Everyone, open to page 376. We're going to discuss how the esoteric magics work. Um,
I imagine like we wouldn't need to be polluting the air with airplanes and that sort of things, just create a whole industry of travel agents that just go zap, step here, step there, you're there.
you'd like to think that, but there's always a cost. And that's
Sure.
what it always comes back to magic, because they will say there is always a cost. You can't just that. Yes, you can access all this power, but there is an equal and opposite reaction. And it's
Mm.
sort of like when Dungeon Master gave Eric the powers of the Dungeon Master for one episode, and he like makes a fountain shoot up from the ground to slack his thirst, and he says to him, you have to understand the power of the Dungeon Master. You can moving water to quench your thirst could drain an ocean across the world. You have to understand that everything you do is going to have a reaction on something else. So that's
Yeah.
why magic users don't do that, because you can't do that. Now, mutants are a different commodity, but you have to be careful not to get into that sort of slave labor world of mutants where you just have.
That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking. Like, I mean, like you look at industries like the NFL or boxing or whatnot, where there are clear dangers that are plain and obvious to see, but people line up to do it anyway because there is something they gain from that experience that is worthwhile as a way to spend one's life. However, one chooses to. So in that same way, if there is sort of like something attractive to it, slave is
Well,
from
no, no,
whatever
no, no, no.
measure
There
of
actually is a
control
history
they
of like,
mean to assert, they can
yeah,
control sort of like what's available
well,
to
yeah,
you and what you want in a way to make you line up and do that
yeah.
job.
I'm not a big believer that wages are slavery. I'm actually a big believer that wages are wages, and
Right.
slavery is when you don't have a choice what you're doing today. Doesn't matter if they give you a house or whatever. It's like, no,
Yeah.
you have to do this job, and that's something that happened in Genosha.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Um,
if you look at like the subjugation of other species to feed our hunger,
yeah,
maybe the same thing could happen.
but
Uh,
it's like, if you could if you could like generate fireballs,
yeah, but
suddenly.
what if you were given like a familiar, a human to carry with you, and every time you drained his life force to do your magic, and you were endlessly supplied when you ran out with a person that would walk with you, and you just drained them dry to do all your magic. That would
Yeah,
imagine turn into a very dark industry.
I can imagine. So I'd have to imagine who's the person who wants to do that, unless it
I
was a
know,
weird
I'm
sex thing.
just saying,
And sadly,
but
there just aren't that many people that want to be drained for magical purposes just so they can get their rocks off.
no, well, I mean, desperation will call huge swaths of the population to do crazy things.
Oh yeah, yeah, and you could do it with like rotating people and things like. I mean, there's things you could do.
Also true. Also
There's
true.
ways it could be done. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying there are problems anytime you want to commoditize things. But that was the idea.
Oh
Like,
yeah, no. The point I was simply making is that human beings are dark enough to explore those caves.
I know
For sure.
my basic thinking is that you could like run a power plant off of a human torch. You get like 4 human torches in 3 shifts, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah. So come in, just get the boiler boiling, keep it boiling, and then eventually Starfire is going to come in and relieve you, and then after that we'll get the other person and this and we're going to pay you a good wage because we're going to pay you pretty much all the money we would have spent on gasoline. you know
Or was it fission or fusion?
yeah, or whatever it would have taken, but right now we can do it just with you, and that's a good thing. So there's lots of ways you can commodify superhuman resources. So but I think, but as long as you're paying them, I think it's reasonable. The biggest problem with that is just having things set up for what powers are available and making sure that there's enough of that power to do the work you need to. because that's always the other problem, is you can't build a different power plant for each different type of superpower, you know. Like this one has a treadmill for your speedsters, and you know, we don't have enough speedsters, so we can't get enough speedsters onto the treadmill. And eventually you get to a point where, like, you know, there's just not a consistent supply of the people we need, you know. Anyway, okay. So Maz, any final thoughts on tonight's episode?
No, I'm super excited to see a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's so much that happens in this, and yet there's always more that we're waiting for. So that's pretty cool. Um, you know, I do hope people have enjoyed the show. I hope they've enjoyed listening to us. If they do want to tell us their thoughts, they can write them out and send it in an email at capesandlunatics@gmail.com. That's capesandlunatics, all spelled out, all one word, at gmail.com. And they can also call us, leave us a voicemail, which we will play on the air if you want us to, at 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. And go down to our show notes, click on the link tree. That's linktr.ee/capes and lunatics, again spelled out, where you will get all of our amazing merch, like aluminium mugs and t-shirts and phone cases. And also you can subscribe to our Patreon, give us money, and watch our topless movie reviews. And if they want to reach out to you specifically, Maz, how can they do that?
Well, they can email me at mozzmanzor@gmail.com or find me on Facebook under Mozz Manzor. That's MOZZMANZOOR.
And of course, you can write to me in that old-fashioned email way, where mothers and fathers once did, at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, at gmail.com. And of course, follow me on the Twitter as I live tweet things when they come back, at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEssser. Look for the two E's in the middle.
For quality. Ding.
Thank you, Maz. All right, you filthy landlubbers. You came through the horn with me and Maz. You survived another day in the wet, and now you're back on the dry. But come back again next week when we once again sail full stream ahead. Arr. All right, Maz.
Right on.
That was fun.
Indeed.